I wanted to talk today. I wanted to start the program by talking about a man who gave me my big break in showbiz. Dave Portnoy has brought me up on the unnamed show fairly often, and so I figured I would take the opportunity today to let everyone know why he hates me so much. Because he brings me up and says I'm pretty much the most hated guy in his life, and I don't really understand the level of anger, but I do get why he dislikes me. So that's what today is about. Now, I want to go over this in excruciating detail. So we will play a bunch of clips from the past. But I will first say, if you clicked on this video and you're like, I don't have 45 minutes or however long this is to waste on why Dave hates some worthless asshole, I will just give you the Reader's Digest version. He doesn't like the cut of my jib. And even just the way I delivered that sentence, he probably wouldn't care for. I'm a nerd and he's a bro, or however you want to stereotype us. But he doesn't like. I don't pass muster with old Davey Page views. He doesn't like me. Doesn't like who I am as a guy. But I think there's more to it than that. So we will break it down. And it starts with, we'll just get right into it, the unnamed show clip that kind of inspired me to do this. So my name comes up every so often on the unnamed show, and Dave mentions how much he hates me. And people have asked me, like, why? Dave's very famous. You can, if he doesn't have beyond average Mick on his show, it makes national news. So he's a very well-known guy. Why does this famous man hate you? So we'll hear his version, and then I'll give mine after that. But this is from the unnamed show this past Wednesday.
I don't know how long he hasn't worked here, but he's one of those guys, a little blind Mike-ish.
I'll just
hype up,
just for context, they're talking about a guy named Michelangelo who left the company and has a lot of sour grapes. He held on to the Monkey Boy documentary that he was working on. He held that hostage. So I guess he hates the company because he got laid off. And Dave is now comparing me to that guy, Michelangelo.
Something, and then he'll be like, "Why are you getting mad at me? Like, what did I do?"
It's like, Mike's been killing you on this. Like, who's the old Dave Portnoy? No free speech. Like,
I haven't seen it.
Bad.
Thank God. I try to avoid it because I know, like, Blind Mike's one of those rare individuals. I hate him.
It's become. It used to be something I would get very. No, why is Kirk doing that? I would get very worked up over it. It's now become one of my favorite things to watch Kirk just completely dupe Portnoy into thinking I've been bashing him relentlessly over the last few weeks, where he goes, "Oh, yep, you wouldn't believe it, Dave." It's very fun, and he sells it perfectly to where Portnoy just fully believes him. It's very funny.
So much. The thought of him triggers me. Thinking about it when he was sitting in Milton with that magnifying glass because he can't see the computer, working, literally getting like, "Hey, can you do this thing?" It takes him all day because he can't see, and being like so bad at his job that he couldn't work here, not because he's blind, because he sucks. And then he's always lobbing grenades and then being like, "Woe is me."
Yeah.
He just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Glad I haven't seen it.
If you
threw a wallet at his face,
he did.
Blind.
That was to test if he was blind. And by the way,
blind.
Whitney,
He's blind. He is blind.
By the way, Whitney, he was so bad at his interview. There was no way he was getting hired. He's the one. He's like, "I'm blind. You can make fun of it." I'm like, "We can? Then maybe you have some value."
Okay.
So he's not wrong, by the way. There's some myth out there that I'm bitter because Dave made fun of my blindness. I'm the one that said, "Do that. I'm blind. You can make fun of it." So he's 100% right about my time as an intern. I made content there where it was I play spike ball and ping pong and basically watch Mike be blind. And I started really resting on that and not trying anywhere near my hardest. What I should have been doing is the comedy stuff that I talk about now. And I don't know that it would have worked or gotten any reception, but that was my big hang up. That's what prevented me from doing it, was fear, where I probably should have been reviewing comedy specials. Or I specifically remember sitting at my desk listening to Opie and Jim, the first big fight that Opie and Jim had. And I was listening to that in the office while I was just doing other stuff. what I should have done is just write a blog about that. Like, there's a segment of Barstool's audience that crosses over with that world or would have been interested in just a radio war or something. But I didn't have that mindset. There was a woe is me element to it. I think in some of the clips that we're going to play, I think Dave misuses the term woe is me. But a big thing I noticed is like, I went to a program for the blind, as many of you know, 5 years ago now, basically. And that's something I should have done when I was 15. And that it helped my confidence a great deal. I was in therapy 3 times a week, all this stuff. It helped me learn technology, stuff that I should have done when I was a kid. But again, it was like resting on, like, this is just the way things are for me. And there was a woe is me element to everything I was doing. And there was a self-deprecating thing I would do that I thought I was being like funny. Like, oh, maybe even getting ahead of the joke or whatever it was. But there was an attitude I would present, like, oh, this is probably going to suck, but here it is, like that sort of thing. I think at the time I thought that was like charming. Like, I thought, like, oh, see, like, I can poke fun at myself. I think the way other people heard it was like, oh, this guy wants us to feel bad for him. So that's not an intentional thing. When he would say that back in the day, I would always think, like, I'm not being woe is me because I don't want you to feel bad for me. I didn't realize it was the attitude I was putting across. So Dave is right about my internship there, but where it's gotten lost is he's acting like that's why he hates me, is because I was a bad employee. I was an intern there for a year and they moved to New York. I never thought I would be invited, and I wasn't. So I went on my merry way for the next 3 years until I linked up with the Kirk show, obviously. And when I was brought on, I'm not going to say Dave was doing cartwheels, but there was never like, oh, that asshole. Like, Dave, the way he's remembered it in his brain is that I've always been a guy that shits on Barstool because of sour grapes or something. There was really never that. This all started when I started working for Kirk, and he's kind of compartmentalized it as I was a guy who didn't get a job, so I was bitter. But that's really not the truth. I didn't deserve a job at that time. So now we're going back almost 6 years ago. I think this is the fall of 2019. And there were a couple instances, there are a couple of things to set this up for those that don't remember or don't know. It is funny too, because even people that like found the Kirk Minahan show within the last few years might not have even seen this interaction. But when I started with Kirk's show, I forget what happened, but we were playing a clip of Barstool Radio, and I said that Tommy Smokes was boring on that show. He didn't really talk. And I don't think I was necessarily wrong about that. I will say I was way off about Tommy. I get what he does now and find him funny. I've said that before, like watching Surviving Barstool and seeing a couple sketches that he's in. I get it way more now. So I was way off on him. I was speaking out of pocket, as they say. But I don't think I was wrong about the Barstool Radio clips we were playing necessarily. Also, this coincides with, if I remember right, and maybe people can correct me in the comments, but if I remember right, this is also around the same time of the first K. Marco incident, where Andrew Dice Clay was on Kirk's show and said something about the Michael Jackson documentary. He made some joke that Michael Jackson was innocent, or so. I forget exactly what Dice said, but Steve Robinson put it in a blog headline that Dice said this on the show. K. Marco nixed it. And that's when I believe I started saying things like, boy, that seems weird for a place like Barstool to be worried about what other people think of that, like how people are going to twist their headlines. It seems strange for them to be worried about, the PC police reacting to them. I was surprised by that. So I started taking shots, as Dave calls them, in that way. So both those things culminate here, where Tommy reacted to me poking fun at him, and then they call me on for a trial on Barstool Radio.
When I said it 4 months ago.
What do you expect to happen when you just take insults? If you're in somebody else's shoes, Tommy's or anybody's, and you repeatedly take shots?
Did you hear what I just said? Tommy was right for being pissed at me and responding.
Yeah, but then you also said it's like radio. We're just talking about the show and go. What is? Like,
it is.
What?
It is radio, and we're just talking. What am I supposed to do?
That's a difference.
Tommy's off. Hey, Kirk, let's move off this subject.
It's not just Tommy. It's anybody. It's anybody. It's not a joke.
All right, so anybody. And
that's what your show does. Hey, let me tell you something, you fucking blind fuck. That's what your show does.
Pause real quick. The only problem I have with that, the only part that made me know, you can call me a blind fuck. Don't refer to it as my show. That makes me very nervous. It's Kirk's show. Everyone knows that. Don't put that on me, Dave.
Said everybody, including in here, and then Kirk doesn't, but you do the woe is me. You make enemies all around. I don't give a fuck, but when you guys are off on your own and you burn your next bridge and off on your own.
What is this woe is me thing you're talking about?
That's what you do. That's what you do. It's a joke. Why are you getting so mad? Woe is me.
Yeah, so I think he's misusing that there, where I say it's a joke. I'll try to explain what I mean. Like, again, you could say taking shots or making fun of or however you want to phrase it, but I was basically shitting on Tommy. I didn't think I was doing it in a malicious way, but I didn't mean it. I did mean when I said he was boring, like I meant that. That was from a real place. But what I was trying to say there was, I didn't think it was so serious that it would lead to me being on trial and having to respond in a serious way. I always think of Opie and Anthony relentlessly bashed Scott Shannon for years and went sometimes like really in like real like personal stuff, like they would really go after guys on the radio. And then years later, and I mean years and years, like there's a much longer history there, Scott Shannon called into their show and goes, "Why am I talking to you two assholes?" And they go, "Hey, Scott," and everything's fine. So in my mind, like if Tommy heard those clips and was like, "Who is this fucking nobody making fun of me?" I thought that's all it had to be. I was very surprised that it was like a serious trial. Now, with years of hindsight, here's what I think this was. I think Dave looks at this as disloyalty, which I get from his perspective because I don't think he has the full context of what I was saying. But I think he looks at it from afar, just sees this guy that was an intern, was brought back not by Dave, but by Kirk. Like, if Dave had his choice, I never would have worked there again. So Dave sees this guy and he's like, "Oh, that's probably sour grapes." He's probably very used to dealing with employees like that and just kind of put that on me as me doing the same thing. There's also sort of a hierarchy thing where it's like, I was the lowest ranking employee at the company. Who am I to make fun of Tommy Smokes? I don't view the world in that way. I think a company that says you buy the common man for the common man, I would think the bottom guy is able to make fun of the top guy and vice versa. But Dave was always very clear that he didn't see it that way. He does treat people differently based on kind of their ranking, which he is very open about. But I remember maybe about a year ago, we played a clip from Kill Tony where the guy went up and did his minute and then took a dig at Tony, made like a roast joke. And it seemed like pretty innocuous to me as a listener. But Tony took that as and goes, "Oh, you're one of these Reddit guys," and started going after him with all the venom that he's probably always wanted to give to the Kill Tony subreddit. And I was like, this is weird. Why is he doing that? And I think there are just certain guys that like see the world in that way, where Dave's a very black and white guy. You're either with him or against him, I think. And when he started seeing me pipe up on certain issues, he looked at that as against him. My thing was always, when the stuff mattered, I was always on his side. When he was getting shit for rapping the N-word, or when Business Insider went after him, I was always on what I consider to believe the right side of history there and always defended him. But he wouldn't hear that stuff. He would just hear the little shots that I'd take. And I think that idea annoys him as well, where he thinks of a guy that's just kind of piping up and taking shots and then hiding behind the fact of like, "Oh, but I've defended you this time." I don't agree with that mentality, but I understand where he's coming from, and that's what he's trying to get across to me here.
My thing with him, and he should learn.
Oh, sorry. This needs a little more. So this is now Kirk calling in later. So I'm done with them. This is on the Minifan Show YouTube channel, by the way. Shout out to them for preserving it, because I don't know if I would have been able to find these old Barstool radio clips if not for that. But this is now Kirk calling in later in the show, and Dave explaining why he's so mad at me.
From you is what drives me insane is, did you hear the beginning when he was like, "It's a joke"? And then 2 seconds later, it's like, "So you don't think Tommy's boring?" He's like, "No, I think he's boring." That's what drives me crazy about Blind Mike. And
yeah, but you can joke about something that you think is true. I mean, both can.
But that's not a joke. Separate. How is saying someone's boring a joke if you mean it?
Well, because if they say something boring and you're kind of making a joke at the fact that it's boring, it can't be funny. I mean,
it's not just with Tommy, but he does a lot. He'll say something that's not really jokey. It's just like, oh, you stink or this or that. And when you call him on it,
hold on.
Like, oh.
That is I'm very mean. That is my general MO. I'm just a nasty man, as most people know me. I also think part of this is Dave just doesn't think I'm funny and never will, and that's fine. And that comes up a lot in some of these arguments where if I'm joking, he's like, well, it wasn't funny. I'm like, you don't think I'm funny, but what am I supposed to do about that? I can't change that. But Kirk is much better, as he so often does, at articulating my point here.
Oh, I was just joking. Don't get mad about that. That's what drives me insane about not only him, anybody who does that.
Well, okay, fine. Whatever. You can hate him. I really don't care. I like the guy. I don't think he's talentless. I don't think he's talented, but he's somewhere in between.
I want that on my headstone one day. That's actually the nicest compliment I've ever got. And I think it does sum me up pretty well. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think you hear it there where Dave just doesn't like the kind of guy I am, I guess. Again, I don't understand why it's resulted in the level of hatred he has for me, but I get it. I do get why he wouldn't like me. I don't necessarily get why he hates me, but I totally get why he wouldn't like me if he was in his shoes. So I believe the next clip, we're going to some of the stunts that I pulled. Is that right, Casey? Do I have that in the correct order?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So to, again, set this one up, if you remember me yelling, I have a question for Sam Kennedy while I'm being dragged out of, it was the Springfield casino, which is at the time newly built. And I think their arena that they had was, I think it was an MGM casino. And I think the arena might be the MGM arena now. I'm not really sure. But I went to a Red Sox event and purposely disrupted it and got dragged out and all that. Unknowingly at this time, and I think this is a cause for the friction here as well. I had no idea that from the time I started, more or less, because I found out this years later, but I'm pretty sure, and you guys can correct me again if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm pretty sure in years after this that when Dave talked about Francis getting fired, he said part of that was because the Penn deal had just started being kind of thrown around. Like the idea of them being bought out by Penn National, this big gambling company, just started around June of 2019. And then so Francis got fired for his blog post. So it did create this world where Dave was very on edge about this deal and was worried someone was going to fuck it up. So me going into a casino and purposely being disruptive was one of those things that he was worried was going to get fucked up. So after that, it got into his head that I am a terrorist out to take down Barstool Sports. So Kirk went to Miami for the Super Bowl in, I think it was the end of January, the last week of January 2019. Might have been the first week of February. I forget when that week lined up. But I'm sorry, in 2020, rather. Right before the pandemic. And Kirk is down there, but his show wasn't supposed to be down there. Me and Steve, the fans paid for me to get down, and I think Kirk says in this clip that Milton sponsored Steve Robinson getting down there. So me and Steve joined him, and then when I got down there, I found out I wasn't allowed to do anything, so it was an entirely wasted trip. I said I was going to go to Media Day, and Dave called me personally, which never happened before, and said, you're not doing that. Why are you here? That sort of thing. And so this is Kirk and Dave talking about that right now.
With you. So, the only thing I'm concerned about.
I don't even know what you're rambling about.
No, I'm going to tell you. The only thing I'm concerned about this week in Miami is Kirk Minahan and company.
Is that really true?
Yes.
You're concerned about me?
Kirk Minahan and company.
Okay, if company wasn't here, would you be concerned?
Far less.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh. Well,
I don't like or trust Blind Mike.
Sure, you've made that very clear. Yeah.
So the first thing I said to you today when I saw you was I want all Blind Mike stunts approved before he does them.
Sure.
He's 0 for 1. He asked me to do. He said he was planning on going to a drag bar tonight and pretending he thought it was media day.
Well, because you told him he couldn't try and get in the media night.
Right. So I said I was going to go to media day. He said absolutely not. So there was a drag bar right down the street from our hotel. So I said maybe it'd be funny if I showed up there. Hey, I'm blind. I don't know where I am. They sent me to the wrong address or something. Very glad I didn't do it in hindsight. It sounds like a shitty bit, but it was an idea I had. And Dave said no. I don't know how he thinks Kirk's show works, but I would never go off on my own with some insane stunt that's going to take down the company. It's just not how that show works. He looks at Kirk, and I think some of this is misdirected anger that he doesn't want to take out on Kirk or something, but he looks at that show as like he's terrified of it for some reason. He's always worried they're going to get him in trouble, whereas the only trouble it's caused is from Dave. Like, Dave is the one angrily reacting to all this stuff. There hasn't been some major hit piece done on the Kirk Minahan show. The only one who's really cast aspersions on the show is Dave. He did it as recently as last week when he started shitting on the audience and stuff like that. So, again, I didn't know. I don't know if Kirk knew at this time about the pen deal. It was announced that week. So when he's saying this, when you hear him saying, like, I don't want Blind Mike doing any stunts, I have no idea that there's a $500 million deal hanging in the balance. But my intention was never to ruin the company, regardless of how much money was at stake. But that's just a misconception of me that he'll always have that I'll never convince him of. I've thought a lot about, like, when I was getting ready to do this segment, I was like, oh, there's a chance I'm dragged on to confront Portnoy. I have no real anger at him. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. It's like, at this point, it's like, you don't like me. I don't like you. What are we going to talk about, really? And you're just going to shout at me and call me talentless. And I'm going to say, nah, it's not getting a lot done. But yeah, that's where he started to think I was a terrorist, basically, where I was out to take down the company. So now we move, I think, a little backwards in time. I think this is actually a month earlier where I really started to lose his trust. Steve Robinson asked me to write a blog post about Trenny Kuznarek, which, if you don't remember that name, she was on Kirk and Callahan as like a regular, and became, I mean, not became, I guess she always was like super liberal. But if you remember, 2019, 2020, the cancel culture stuff got really crazy. If I'm remembering this correctly, there was a story in the news about military members at, I think, the Army-Navy game putting up the OK symbol, like that with your hand, where people called that racist for some reason. I don't remember the full context of how that became racist, but Trenny was on the front lines of calling that racist. Then people found a picture of her making the same symbol, which was very funny. So Steve Robinson asked me to write a blog for the website about it. I don't write blogs. The only one in my time there, in my time with Kirk, that got published was defending Shane Gillis. So I don't really write them, but it was in the same wheelhouse. I did write a couple as an intern, but they kind of sucked. So Dave's thought of me is not as a blogger, certainly. So Kay Marco messaged me and was like, you're not allowed to write blogs. And I blew up on the air that day on Kirk's show and was like, well, what the fuck? Why can't I do it? Because I guess Dave and Kirk had a conversation about it and said, Dave said, I don't want Mike going to battle for these type of issues. I don't want some feminist coming after us for something that Mike said. So here's where I say, like, well, so you're afraid of being called a sexist, but you also think I'm right. And that's where the argument picks up.
What are you talking about?
Oh, absolutely. It had something to do with you didn't want us to.
I don't care if it was a guy. I don't want Blind Mike leading a battle.
Okay, then he won. Great. Okay, then he won.
I said I agreed with what he wrote to you on the phone. I said I agreed with what he wrote.
Right, and then you said, I
so
don't
then
want to
how is it sexist?
Feminist is exactly what you said.
You set Mike up for failure.
Feminist.
Mike, where'd you get confused then, Blind Mike? You've heard me talk.
What do you mean? I'm just saying, if you agree with it, why couldn't it get posted?
Because Mike, we have a long history. Whether the person's crazy or whatever,
we get in battle.
Shut up, Mike.
I get all that, but
Shut the fuck up. You get right or wrong. People write articles about it because you're the author. You've written one thing, Mike. You're a nothing here. I don't want you leading those very important battles with you. I don't fucking trust you. How hard is that to see that I don't want you leading Barstool into battles when you've been here for a fucking minute and I don't trust you?
So where I got confused was him saying, I agree with I read the blog and I agree with Mike. That's the thing I kept getting hung up on, where I'm like, it's fine that you don't trust me, but you know what I said. I can't sneak any more in there. You could just publish that what I already wrote. And then the trust factor goes out the window. Basically what he's saying there that I didn't understand at the time is like, I don't want you working here. He's basically saying, I wish you didn't work for this company. And that's what I never got. I was like, oh no, we'll hash it out. You hear him there where he's like, well, how did you misunderstand this, Blind Mike? And I go to explain, and he goes, shut the fuck up. I realize that now that there was never me convincing him, but I naively thought back then, I'm going to find the right ordering of words that will make him get my point. And I think just when Dave has that opinion of you that he doesn't like you or he doesn't trust you, I don't think there's any going back on that. I don't know what I could really do that would earn his trust back. So this is our last clip, right, Casey?
It is.
Yeah. So now I'll just explain this. So I leave Kirk's show as an employee, and I went into the blind program that I mentioned, and I fenced, and more importantly, did a bunch of other stuff there that helped me. And I came back. I think at this time, I still may have only been on once a week. Maybe it was twice a week at this point. I can't remember. But now I'm doing Kirk's show again and everything. And I haven't had an interaction with Dave at this point in a year and a half, probably, maybe more. So this is January of 2022. This episode is not on YouTube. I tried to find so that there would be a little more context, but the audio versions can be a pain in the ass to pull clips from. So I just went with this clip that the show tweeted out. But just for proper context, this is the first time I piped up and did that thing that I do where I say Barstool has changed. There was an argument in January of 2022 where Alex Bennett and I believe Jordan Woodruff, I believe both, I think that's where the name of the show Mean Girls came from, where Alex Bennett and Jordan Woodruff were calling this girl Danielle Bernstein. They were making fun of her for some reason. And Dave said, hey, Danielle Bernstein is my friend. I see her in the Hamptons. You guys aren't allowed to be mean to her. I think at this point you can judge whether or not that's hypocritical. I've pontificated about it enough. You can have your own thoughts on whether or not that's a crazy thing for a guy like Dave Portnoy to say. But I piped up about it on Twitter at the time and was like, this is crazy. Dave Portnoy, of all people, saying don't be mean. So we get into it. He calls into Kirk's show. He confronts Kirk first and then starts in with me. And this is where I guess a lot is built up over the previous 3 years or so, and you hear it kind of explode here in this clip. I defend you every time, Dave, and you know it. I know that you see me defend you when you're screaming the N-word and when you're choking broads. I defend you every fucking time, Dave, and you know it. You love me. You love me, Dave. You know that you love me. Shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up this time, Dave. You love me. I defend you every time it matters, and I take little shots when it's funny, but other than that, I've paid you a lot of fucking respect.
Maybe it's just you're not funny.
Yes, we know, Dave. I'm not. I know I'm not funny. I'm blind. Did you know that? I'm blind also, and I'm fat, and I'm stupid, and I'm worthless. Anything else? Anything else? I know, Dave, because you've been saying it for 7 years. I don't give a fuck. But it's bizarre to say, don't be mean. Are you fucking crazy? Don't be mean. Are you out of your mind? Dave Portnoy saying, don't be mean. You've lost it. You fucking snapped.
Well, somebody stopped this conversation.
Well, I'm not one of the great yellers. My voice gets to it. I'm not one of the great talkers either, but when this voice gets to that pitch, it's not a great combination. The only thing I'm embarrassed about by that clip is me saying, you love me. That's not my personality. I think I just sort of blacked out for a minute. But also, I think what I meant, if I can get in my own head for a second, is this is not that long after the Business Insider piece. So Julia Black reached out to me for that article that she wrote, the hit piece she wrote on Portnoy, where she basically called him a rapist. I think when she started the article, she was just casting a wide net and trying to figure out how she's going to slander this guy. So she messaged me, not kidding, 6 hours after Kirk was on the Dave Portnoy show at the time, and my name came up, and Dave, of course, said, I don't like Blind Mike. 6 hours later or so, Julia Black messages me and says, hey, Mike, just totally random. Just thinking of you. Wanted to talk to you about Barstool stuff. How was your time there? It was subtle, but I could tell what she was doing. And I messaged her and said, my time there was great. Dave gave me a great opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And then when she posted the article, I tweeted that message out and was like, where was my thing? I thought you wanted to make this a workplace abuse thing that I kind of debunked. Why did that change? Because you couldn't find anyone? So in moments like that, I did always defend Portnoy. And I remember in that argument, he was like, well, what are you supposed to do? Lie? And I was like, well, I thought that's what everyone else named in the article did, right? So that's why you hear me say, whether you're saying the N-word or choking broads or whatever I say, in those moments, I do defend him. But ultimately, I don't think he gives a shit. That's what I learned now. I was like, oh, well, he'll see one day that I defend him in those instances. I don't think he needs me to defend him, and I don't think he cares about it. I just don't think he likes that I represent a group of people that say Dave's changed. You hear him saying in that clip under my insane screaming. You hear him going, Dave's changed, Dave's changed. But there's also clips of Dave. I forget the context, but I know Cullinane has a clip where he's like, no doy, I sold out. No doy. Like Dave's acknowledged that he's changed. It's just when I say it, he doesn't like it. I don't think he likes the place that he believes it's coming from. But like, there's also shit I respect about Portnoy still to this day. Like the reason, I think the catalyst, this might sound crazy to say, but I think the catalyst for him owning Barstool again really was Mincy getting fired for rapping the N-word, a thing that happened to Dave also. And I think that bothered Dave that they'd gotten to the point where Mincy got fired for something like that and he couldn't really control it or save him. And I think that's where he started to lose interest in the Penn National aspect of things. So there's still stuff like that I respect Dave for. Ultimately, like, I think he thinks I've always hated him. He's kind of driven me into that, but I always respect and appreciate the opportunity that he gave me, obviously. So that's about it. I don't have anything more to say about it, but people have asked me because clips like this pop up on the Unnamed show. So people are like, why does he hate you so much? I've tried to explain it the best I can. Now I have a thing I can point you to. If you're ever curious why such a famous man hates such an insignificant person as me, now you have your answer. There's also a thing where it's like, I think back then I just had no confidence, and I think that reeked where Dave knew he could fucking like lay into me like that. I think that's part of it too, where, you know, I mentioned Mincy or Frank the Tank. I was hired as a freak show, like just a blind guy that Dave could make fun of, which I asked for. Again, don't get it misconstrued, Dave, when you hear this. I asked for that. I said, hey, bring me in as a whack packer, make fun of me, whatever. So I was hired the same way as Mincy or Frank or any of these other people that are there for Dave to make fun of. And some of those guys make careers on their own and become their own person. I think the difference with me was I was on a talk show that would talk about Barstool stuff, and I was shitting on Barstool. I thought because it was for a Barstool show, that was protected in a way where it's like, you know, there's no malice, but he just never saw it that way. And there's nothing I can do to change it at this point. So that is my perspective on things. I'm sure it will all be taken in good spirit. And I'm sure this will be the one that gets across to Dave. And he's like, oh, that's what he meant. That'll definitely happen. But more so, I look forward to the Unnamed show where Kirk is like, Davey's burying you again. You got to check this out. I will find that very funny. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.